Is Bruno Mars a cultural appropriator? Hi, thanks for watching. So today I'm going to be talking about Bruno Mars, whether or not he is appropriating culture. I'm going to talk about the roundtable that was on the Grapevine and bring up some of the topics that they talked about, some of the things that they mentioned, and give my take on it and give you a few things to think about. So yesterday, the Grapevine published a video, actually two videos, about 25 minutes each, and it was a roundtable group discussion about whether or not Bruno Mars was appropriating culture. Now, first right off the bat is, what is cultural appropriation? Well, I'm by no means an expert in this, but according to Wikipedia, cultural appropriation, often framed as cultural misappropriation, is a concept in sociology dealing with the adoption of the elements of a minority culture by members of the dominant culture. But going by this definition of Wikipedia, to be a cultural appropriator, you have to be a member of the dominant culture. And I don't think that Bruno Mars is a member of the dominant culture. His father is half Puerto Rican, half Ashkenazi Jewish descent from Ukraine and Hungary. And he's originally from Brooklyn. His mother immigrated from the Philippines to Hawaii as a child, and she was of Filipino and some Spanish ancestry. So that's Bruno Mars' background. Now, my definition of cultural appropriation is not exactly the Wikipedia definition. The way that I see it kind of involves intent, seems to be an important thing. Is, are you being respectful of a culture that you are borrowing from? Or are you clowning it, right? And so in this respect, I don't see Bruno Mars as appropriating black music. I think he's just a fan of it, and he is taking from different elements that he's a big fan of, mixing it together, and he's making something, and he's successful at it. I'm reminded of an interview that I read a month ago or so in Rolling Stone, and they were talking to George Clinton, the pioneer of funk with Parliament Funkadelic. And they asked him, how do you feel about white artists doing black music? And his response was, I'd bite off the Beatles or anybody else. It's all one world, one planet, and one groove. You're supposed to learn from each other, blend from each other, and it moves around like that. And I like that response. That's kind of more of the camp that I'm in. That's kind of how I see things. But I understand that there's different perspectives on this. And that brings me to the discussion that they had at the Grapevine. If you don't know the Grapevine, they are described as a roundtable discussion group of black millennials. So we got to see a lot of different opinions, a wide variety of opinions, many of which I agreed with, many of which I thought were crazy. But that was really nice to see, that not everyone of a group is the same. And with that, I will just say, as a white Gen Xer, I certainly don't have the same opinion as other people my age that look like me. We also have a wide variety of views on these things. It appeared to me like the group, or many people in the group, were really hung up on the Grammys and how important the Grammys were in getting recognition, and that Bruno Mars won Album of the Year, and somehow that's a big deal. And my question from someone a little bit older is, who cares about the Grammys? Who really does? You know, speaking of the Grammys, there's a lot of fantastic groups that have never won Grammys. Guns N' Roses never won a Grammy. Oasis never won a Grammy. Depeche Mode never won a Grammy. Biggie, Tupac, Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest, they never won Grammys. De La Soul, Nas, like, none of them have ever won a Grammy. I mean, what does it tell you? Rakim was never nominated for a Grammy. That's all I need to know, right? I don't care what the Grammys think at all. It means nothing to me. Another thing that came up in the roundtable discussion is the difference between light-skinned and dark-skinned artists, and whether or not it was possible for darker-skinned artists to be R&B stars and whatnot. And that was interesting for me to hear, because that is not something that I consider or ever think about at all. I don't use the term light-skinned or dark-skinned person, it's not something that even enters my mind. But it was interesting to hear these young people talk about this issue and how important it was to them, or to many of them. Another point that was brought up in the discussion was that the claim that white people want to hear black music from non-black artists. And I got to tell you that while that may be true for some people, that's not true for me. And I don't think that's true for anyone I know. That kind of sounds insane. But overall, there were a lot of great points that were brought up in the discussion. In fact, I really liked the roundtable discussion that they had at the Grapevine. I think that it really does a service. And I would like to see more things like this, where different points of view can be shared. It got a little heated at some times. I didn't care for that, and I didn't really care for the cursing, but, that's me. And in fact, I'm thinking I would love to be part of a roundtable group if there was something like that in Portland. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I did want to say to anyone that participated in the Grapevine discussion group, if you see this video, chances are you won't, because my videos get about 50 views. But if you do, I just wanted to say thank you. One last thing I wanted to say was that the group seemed to be really hung up on people getting record contracts and, touring arenas and things like that, that was like the pinnacle of success in music. And it's of my opinion, I don't want to see people at arenas. I live here in Portland, and we have one big arena. It's where the Trailblazers play. And anytime like Bruno Mars or Katy Perry or Lady Gaga or whatever comes to town, that's where they go. I don't want to see a show there. I've lived here 15 years. I've never seen a concert there. But I don't think a month has gone by since I've moved here that I haven't seen live music somewhere at a bar or a small theater, something like that. Less than 1% of singers are going to become the great big stars like Bruno Mars and tour arenas. Most of the working musicians, and singers for that matter, are going to be much smaller. And I think that should be celebrated more, as opposed to only being concerned about, the millionaires, the ones that make gold records. So in my opinion, is Bruno Mars a cultural appropriator? Not to me, he's not. But that's me. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Peace. You can help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers by clicking the like button and subscribing. Thanks.